Hey everyone, in today's video what we're going to be doing is having a look at how to prevent fingerprints on your smartphone and tablet devices. So currently everybody's smartphone is probably going to be looking similar to this just because of how much usage it's going to be getting. And what I've done is I've come up with a little hack from the detailing industry that I actually use on all my smartphones. And what we'll do is we'll go through everything that we need, and then I'll show you how I actually go about doing it. So essentially the hack is a spray sealant. The one I use is Copro Hydro 2. The only reason I'm using this one is because, as you can see, I've got quite a bit of it lying around. This particular sealant is a concentrate, and according to the instructions, as you can see there, it's meant to be 1 to 3. That is obviously when it's sprayed on, and the normal usage for this is to spray it onto the vehicle, and what will happen is any surface that doesn't have any hydrophobic properties currently, so when you spray water on a car panel that doesn't have any protection, it will just sit there, it will pool up. Whereas when it's got some sort of sealant on it, it'll basically bead up, so it'll form little water beads. Now the normal usage for this would be to actually spray it on, and then you use either a garden hose or a jet wash and you actually power blast it off. That's how this would normally actually work. In this instance, obviously we don't want to be doing that to your phones and your tablets, so I've come up with a different way of actually using it. You use very little of this when you're using this particular method. So obviously with this is a, can't even remember how much this was. Yeah, so this is half a litre, I think, 16.9 ounces. So this, obviously I purchased it quite a while back. In terms of how much you can actually use for this for your smartphone device, it's literally only going to be a few drops. But the other things that you need is you want some sort of wipes to actually clean down all the oils that are currently on it. If you don't have wipes, you can also use dish soap, fairy liquid, something like that. Anything that basically cuts through grease, that's essentially what you want. Other than that, the method that we're going to be using is using paper towels and some water. I've also got a microfiber here, that's just to wipe it down at the end. What you could do is, if you didn't want to use the paper towels, if you don't have any that are actually soft, then you can also replace that with microfibers. The reason I don't use a microfiber for the initial application is that depending on how strong the sealant is, it can crystallize, and basically I don't want to ruin a microfiber towel with the crystallization that forms, because I then reuse these on other devices, maybe on the phone, maybe on my car. So because of that, I tend to go with the paper towel method. So what I'll do now is I'll show you start to finish how I actually go about doing this. Right, so the first thing that you want to do is use one of the wipes and actually get off anything that's actually on the screen currently. Now you want to be careful which wipes you're using, because some of the hand wipes and general purpose wipes, they may also leave a residue, and the idea here is you want to try and get rid of anything that's on there. One thing to note is, with regards to these types of wipes, once you've actually done this procedure, you probably want to avoid using any of these types of wipes, because anything that is IPA based will actually strip the sealant back off again. So that's not what you want. You want it so then you're just using maybe either a paper towel or microfiber cloth with water, either preferably dry initially, and then if need be, obviously you can just dampen it a little. Right, so I'll give that another. Right, and the idea here, I'll just bring it in closer, is you want to try and get rid of any visible areas where you've got oils pooling up. With this, you don't have to be perfect. It's literally just a case of trying to get it as clean as possible. This isn't a permanent coating, so obviously this isn't something that you're going to put on once and it'll be there forever. This will wear down over time, so for that reason, obviously do it as best as you can. Try and definitely get it as clean as possible. Any of the oils you want to try and get rid of. If you wanted to at this stage, you could also wet your fingers as well, because your fingers will carry a little bit of oils as well. So by wetting your fingers, you're just preventing that transferring over straight away. So with this particular one, what you want to do is you're only using literally a few drops. You only want to get it to the point where it's saturated just a tiny little bit. What I normally do is I'll fold up the tissue in this way, and I'll normally and that's more than enough. And what will happen is you put it on, just make sure you've got good coverage, and then another towel. And with this one, you only want it damp a tiny little bit. So you're literally just dipping it in, and this is what's actually activating the product. This SiO2 spray sealants, basically they work by pressure of being rinsed away. So if anything, you want it so then you're using very little initially, and then you're giving it the wipe down. Right, instantly, as soon as I put that on, you can probably see from the tiny bit of haze that's on there, it instantly feels a lot slipperier. That is one of the properties of SiO2 sealants, the fact that it makes them extremely slippery, and that's basically what rejects the fingerprints and oils. Now to the eye, you should, I'm not sure if it'll come up on camera or not, you can just about see a tiny little bit of a haze on there, and that's what you want the microfiber cloth for, just to get rid of any remaining haziness. The haziness will fade as you use it. When you first apply it, it works better with the microfiber rather than the tissues when you come to getting rid of the haze. But basically, once it's got to the stage where the haze is formed, it's pretty much done its job. What you'll notice straight away is how slippery it now is. So it's pretty much gone. If you wanted to, you could obviously keep using the microfiber, but instantly it's so much more slippery. And what, I won't even be able to show it properly on camera. That's as simple as that. If you wanted to, I can give you a little demonstration in terms of the hydrophobic properties. So if you look at how the water's beading on that, you can see there's a lot of repellency there, and that's essentially what rejects the fingerprints as well. The fact that the water can't actually stick, and you can see it from the water behaviour. You can actually get them to pool up. Almost like Terminator. Let's get rid of that. Now beyond this point, the screen, for the most part, you'll be able to clean using just a dry microfiber cloth. So as you can see, now if I touch onto the screen, there's hardly any fingerprints being transferred onto the actual screen surface itself. And then a quick wipe and it's all clear. Now with this, these tend to take a little while to cure. So ideally, if you can do this at night and leave it overnight, what will happen is by the following day it usually cures slightly better. You can layer this if you wanted to, but I personally wouldn't recommend it for smartphones because there's not really the need for it. One thing I will say though is obviously as this does increase the slickness of the surface, this particular, obviously I've got it in a case. I use most of my phones in cases. This particular one's actually my wife's phone, but if you've got front and back glass on your device, I would not recommend this to be used on the back of your phone. The reason for that is it is extremely slippery, and basically you can quite easily drop your device because it's so much more slippery. Now the other part of this is it doesn't just work on glass either. So this iPad is, you should be able to notice from how shiny this surface is. Basically it's got almost like a rubber protector on it. This is quite an old iPad, as you can see. So this I think is the original iPad Air, and basically what I do is I whenever I get any of new devices, I'll apply either a screen protector or this kind of rubber protector. So if I just press into it, you might be able to just see the indentations. Now this procedure does also work on these types of screen protectors as well, with an added benefit. Now this normally is quite grippy, so if I hold it like that, you can see that it's not actually falling. The reason for that is this particular material, being a rubber, is really grippy, and when you're using something like an iPad, that's actually a downside, because what happens is your finger doesn't transfer over the surface because it ends up gripping it more than glass would. When you actually use this method, it'll actually make the front of the screen feel like glass. So it'll actually give you the benefits of having this rubber screen protector with the same feeling as you get from using glass. It obviously makes it more slippery again, so obviously if you use your device without a case, be careful, and like I said, I'd personally recommend it just for the front. This also works well, you should be able to see on this, where this is actually a screen protector on top of here. Normally the glass is obviously a lot shallower. With most screen protectors, you get the oleophobic coating that comes on them initially won't last very long. It usually only lasts between 3 and 6 months at most. This method will actually repair that and obviously make it so then even if you've got a cheaper screen protector or one that you've had on for a while, it'll actually prevent it from getting from losing that oleophobic properties. It also helps with scratch resistance. It's not massive. It's not going to be a case of you apply this and you'll never get a scratch on your screen again, but it is enough to where it'll just prevent it slightly. This particular screen protector has been on this phone since new. So, and on this particular phone, the only scratch I can see is that one there, and that I believe I actually put in back when this, actually we've got one there, just there, and both of these I actually put in when I first started using the phone over, well, nearly 2 years ago now, a year and a half ago. It was when the XS Max first launched. So that's basically all you need. As you can see, it's not a very lengthy process. Now the tissue that I actually used with the initial solution, this one, is still quite damp. The amount that I put on there, you could probably do maybe 3 to 4 devices with. Normally what I would do is I'd do all the household devices. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 phones, as well as a couple of tablets, and I'll normally do all of those, and you're literally using a couple of drops. What I've done is I've put a link for this particular spray sealant, as well as some alternatives. This one is obviously a concentrate. What you could do is, if obviously to avoid the streaking, you can actually use one that's pre-mixed. So this one, normally you're meant to actually add water into it. with the pre-mixed ones, they come ready-made, so you literally just spray it onto the surface and you basically wash it off. Some of them can be used dry, so some of them you can actually use as a drying aid, so you spray it on and you wipe over and then you just buff off any haze. Some of them are meant to be used with water, similar to the procedure I showed you. If that is the case, obviously you just have to judge it in terms of how strong the solution is. This is obviously quite strong. That's why the amount of, I literally used 1 drop to do the whole phone, and then I've wiped over it 2 or 3 times. If you're worried about the haziness, all you have to do is just use more water, but obviously be sensible. Don't go dipping your phone into the water, even if it is meant to be water resistant. Just use a bit of common sense and basically do it the way I did it. So dry it off, go over it a second time, dry it off. Now, one last caveat is you don't want to be leaving this on the surface for too long without actually wiping it off, because it will cause water, almost like a water stain. Obviously this is meant to be washed off, it's not meant to stay on there, so it's probably got carriers that are actually carrying the main solution, and once the main solution actually bonds, you want to wash off any carriers that are actually mixed into the formula. So that's it for today's video. As always, if you like this video, please hit the like button. Please consider subscribing to the channel and also sharing on social media. I'm trying to grow this channel as much as I can, and basically it's going to be a variety of videos, but mostly around tech. And as always, thanks for watching.